Good morning, Seal Beach. Oh, hi, Eileen C. Davis, right there in the back. I love Eileen. This is a great space. There's money here. There's like all sorts of goodies right here. Seems like home, right? It's such a pleasure to be here, and it's been a while since I've been here, a few months, I think before the holidays. And I forget about that because, hey Donna, your interim minister and I have dinner a couple times a month. So I feel like I'm here a lot, but I realize I'm just with him. He's got some kind of weird plan going on. I'm gonna have to talk to Reverend John about that. What's really great about that is working together in community. We just get together and share ideas and support one another. And I actually think that as ministers, we don't do that enough, and as practitioners, we may not do it enough, or as community members, we come in and we leave, and what happens in between is, well, I don't know. But I always enjoy it when I really believe that I came here to be of support to others, and by doing that, there's support, that reciprocal nature of the universe just flows back and forth, and without even knowing it, oh my goodness, I find myself just overfilled. It was great to see Connie. I haven't seen Connie in 2 years. Oh my goodness. That song, so beautiful. It's amazing what happened through this pandemic is there are folks I haven't seen, and there are losses that are not even measurable. And I say loss as in just change. Since I was with you last, over the holidays, I lost 2 of my 3 brothers. And it was, I can't even explain the feeling of it. Both my brothers were immersed in addiction, and they both ended within a month of each other, actually on the same day, 1 month apart. And the journey of watching them over the last, I would say 10 years or so was, I think that's what sometimes loss does, is you both have relief sometimes, and you also have sort of the experience of what's left when some of the folks that we dearly love depart, and sometimes in the most tragic of ways, right? And we think, where's the gift in that? But there is. There is. So I love the story, Anna Marie, that you told. Science fiction, science is all about boldly go, right? You can't even approach this topic without some sort of science. And everything that we call science fiction actually has some piece of it in truth. So how many of you have seen Star Wars? Yeah, that was easy. My favorite characters in Star Wars actually was Han Solo and Princess Leia. They were both crazy. I mean, seriously crazy, because you would have to be crazy to do some of the stuff they were doing. And there's a scene in the movie, it's in the first one that was released, which, by the way, if you're Star Wars fans, it's not the first story, it's just the first story released. So here's what we do. We never start in the beginning, we start in the middle, right? So in the middle of the story, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, R2-D2, and C-3PO. I can't even believe I remembered all that right now. How did that happen? It's got to be you. They're in a cruiser, and they're, shooting through space, and the dark forces are after them. And Han Solo is that one character in the movie that no matter what will get through it, but he takes everyone through his drama to get there. Right? And as these ships are chasing him, they hit this asteroid field. Do you remember that part of the movie? It's been a while. And that asteroid field, Princess Leia, of course, looks at him because he's done everything from trying to beat part of the engine so that you can go into light space, and a host of other things to no avail. The ship is just not going to cooperate. Kind of sometimes like how we want life to cooperate. On our terms and in our way. And it just doesn't really show up that way because our way is not necessarily the best way. So she's like screaming at him going, "You've got to be kidding me." And he's heading into this asteroid field. Now I was thinking about that asteroid field for just a moment because in every story, Star Wars is the typical Joseph Campbell, the hero. It's the typical story of the hero, which just about every movie is. You pick a movie that doesn't have a hero and a villain, and I'll stop talking now. But what's really interesting is there's this asteroid field that he decides to go into. There actually is an asteroid field in our galaxy. It sits between Mars and Jupiter. It's this asteroid belt that goes right between all the planets. I did not know that. Of course, I'm not a scientist in the sense of traditional science. I am a religious scientist, so a little bit different. But what's interesting about this asteroid field is, again, everything that we see out there is in divine mind. All the ideas, everything that we see in life is a metaphor for real life. I don't care what it is. So he heads into this asteroid field, and it's a mess. I mean, it's got all different kinds of asteroids. There's got to be 230 types of asteroids that are in a particular any asteroid belt. And as he's heading in there, he's acting like, right off the bat, he's going to make it through. And C-3PO says, "You know, there's a 1 in a 3,000 chance we're going to make it." He goes, "Stop giving me data." And I don't like odds either. And I think about that because, in some sense, if we look at that asteroid field, those are all the beliefs and stories that we walk with. He's used to his own asteroid field. He knows the stories, he knows the beliefs that he has, and he knows that he can make it through with a bit of 100-mile-an-hour tape and a hammer. Sometimes that's how we do it. This asteroid field is the place where life's events accumulate. They start to collect, and they're drawn to one another. What's interesting about it when you're smack dab in the middle of an asteroid field is you can't see the stars, and you can't see the rest of the galaxy. Because you're right in the middle of it. And when you're right in the middle of it, it's really hard to see a way out. I keep thinking I'm speaking in this. And the really interesting part, too, is the fact is the universe is always calling us to a bigger idea of who we are. The universe knows that the asteroids are just a part of this journey. It's not the entire journey. And I sort of think of like, how many of you, when your phone rings, can you not answer it? How many? Really? Seriously? If it rings, you're going to answer it. Let's try that first. If it rings, I'm answering it, right? I love you people, because I know if I call you, you're going to answer. There are people in my life, I changed my emergency contact recently because my spouse does not answer the phone. How's that going to work? The thing about that asteroid field is most of us live in that asteroid field. We hang out in there, and all we see are life events bumping up against us. And every once in a while, literally, one of those events ended. For some. For some of us, and I think of Han Solo, crazy, gets through that because he has every belief within him that there is no way anything is going to end it for him. There is no way he's going to give up, whether it's an asteroid field or the Death Star or a cataclysmic explosion. He's going to make it. And through most of the series, he does, doesn't he? And what ends up being what takes his life is not the big cataclysmic event. And to some extent, I honestly think that sometimes, if you're thinking about death and what does take us, is usually something that is meant to take us. And it's my resistance to it. The thing is, the universe is calling. And it's constantly calling us out of that asteroid field. Anne Lamott, I saw her last night, by the way, over in Long Beach. Did anybody else see you? You were there with me. I think I remember you. She is one of my favorites, and I just love her irreverence and her courage and her intention. She says, it's not facing what life dealt that made you crazy, but rather trying to set life straight where it was unstraightable. So I'm just going to ask, how many of you keep trying to change the past? Yeah, if I just could change what happened, I'd be okay. I would just seriously be okay. Well, it doesn't work that way. If you're frustrated, that possibly could be what your frustration is. In 1989, when I was 10, not so much. I turned 60 this year. I know, I made it. And I'm going to say that is a miracle to make it to this age. And I look at sort of my life as being that absolutely amazing miracle. 1989, I was sitting in a room full of women and men in the Los Angeles Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Temple, Mormon. Thanks. I was participating in one of the most important religious rituals as a Mormon, and my life was full of the instruction in the importance of that moment and how that moment was supposedly the moment in which I would find out the truth about all of life, including myself. This part of my journey, I was truly excited, would finally provide all the answers in life that I needed. Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? And what is this place? Now, as a child, I learned growing up that on every Sunday, I learned that place that I was in, this ritual I was about to go through, was the most important ritual that I would go through that would set up the rest of my life. And that all the answers I would find in that space. Now, I'm not here to criticize the Mormon Church. Let's just put that out there. I could, but I'm not here to do that. Because that struggle is what got me here. The challenge with that a place or one moment in time gives you all the answers just doesn't happen. In fact, it actually isn't that one moment in time, but sometimes a moment in time sets up a series of events based upon our truest desire, which is why I always say, be careful what you pray for. If you want your life to change, be prepared to be uncomfortable. Be prepared to have loss. Be prepared that a whole host of things are going to show up. But it's the struggle that we have in the loss, it's the struggle that we have with life changing that is the challenge, not the event itself. So the ceremony that I was sitting there, now everything about the situation spoke completely contrary to the nature of who I am. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into a ritual that I was told I could never speak of outside those rooms because it's secret. And part of my journey to wholeness and health was to not have secrets. Whether it's family secrets, religious secrets, secrets of trauma, secrets of pain, secrets of shame. All those asteroids that I'm bumping all over the place with. So here I was having this, I had high expectations of moving into a place in my life because the journey had so many twists and turns that it was unclear as to how truly I would come to understand what I was here for. And in that room, as I looked around, I felt like I was in a tiny, tiny little box. This is what you must be. And this is your role as a female, especially. But I don't think the men got a great role either. But anytime something or myself or someone puts me in a box, it is up to me to look at the box and say, do I want to stay here? Most of the time it's no, which is why the universe is always calling, which is why I think that whenever I'm living in a box, there's a great amount of discomfort and pain because there's something not right. So how many of you wake up in the morning and go, why don't I feel okay about this? No, go ahead and raise your hand. Don't leave me hanging here. Is there anyone in the room who's completely enlightened and does not struggle? Please raise your hand. Because we need to talk afterwards. In my family, there was such trauma going on. My mother was struggling with mental health. And so the struggle and the way out of that was not being answered by my religion. And I was told that the reason it wasn't being answered is because I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing life right. And when you're not doing life right, then you're really not worthy to receive. And you had to make your way through and be worthy to receive. And then you would know how to get through it. And I thought, well, that sucks. I mean, don't I need the help? That I had to earn love. That I had to earn my way on this life so that in the next life I could get that reward. I was thinking, wow, what's the point? My parents and siblings were also suffering and very unhappy. There was a lot of turmoil, and the only support for my family's dilemma was under the cover of religion. If you could just do it better. If you could just be more perfect. What a painful way to find out. But a necessary one too. Because I remember after going through that ritual, you just don't go through it once as a Mormon. You go through it over and over and over. The first time for yourself, and then you do it for people that have passed on, so you can spread that joy to others. So I remember the last time I was there, and I was looking around in this absolutely beautiful space. It's called the Celestial Room. And it's after you go through the ritual, and let me tell you, the outfit I had to wear, it does not become me. When we were in the temple, we had to wear white, as a woman, white, and the sleeves came down to here, and the dress came up to here, and all the way down to your feet. And underneath it, of course, you've got to wear this real fun underwear. Not going to be part of the talk today. But even in the ritual, there were things like I had to put a veil over my face. There was a host of things that occurred. And if you really want to know it, you can look it up on the internet, or you can just Google Masons, and it's the same ritual. Only they added the female component. I think the thing is, as I was sitting there in what's called the Celestial Room, and it's all white, and everyone's dressed the same. If you're women, you're all dressed the same. If you're men, everyone's in white. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I should be happy. I should have some joy. Why do I feel worse every time I'm sitting in this room? Because I didn't feel enough. I didn't feel I deserved it. I didn't feel worthy. Because the journey was about becoming worthy, not about learning that you're worthy already. Not about knowing that you were loved already. And I think that religious experience is something that we all walk through before we walk into these doors. You know, that you're supposed to struggle. And I believe struggle plays an important role. But I don't think we're supposed to struggle. But I think struggle's part of it. How's that? So sitting there in the temple, I kept hearing there's this things going on, and I was wanting to turn to someone and say, do you feel like I feel? And then I thought, maybe not such a good idea. And what I didn't know in that moment was that it was set up a sequence of events upon leaving the Mormon church that I became more and more honest about what I was feeling and what was happening for me. And then I took the biggest step that I could have ever taken to be in a more conservative fundamentalist faith. I came out as a woman of power. I came out as a lesbian. And I knew that when I did that, that the next things that were going to happen were going to be traumatic and extreme. But somehow, have you ever done that? Somehow when you know you're going to take a step, it's going to expose you. It's going to open you up to something. But to stay where you're at is so painful. I'm not staying here. That this is not worth it. Every one of you have had that. The journey is about coming out and open to boldly go with deep and great intention and trust that the universe has our back. And something in me knew that. And how did I know that? No one told me that. Because there is something within us. There is the call, the pull that says, a collective, we are here for you. We will show up for you. And I use the term we because it's not an I, we know that. It's bigger than that. It's as if all the powers of the universe are going to show up in people, in events, circumstances, and things that you just couldn't imagine. And the sequence of events that occurred from that point were so unbelievably synchronistic that it sometimes, when I thought I was going to lose hope, something showed up. It was the right time, at the most weird place, by the way. And I think that when we realize that the box that we've placed ourselves in, although we were placed in that as children, we were placed in that as teenagers. I think I was talking to someone about middle school and they should just call it torture. And then you get into high school and the world gets even, your box gets even smaller because God help you if you do anything different, right? And then you move into young adulthood and you're trying to be independent if what you're dealing with isn't enough already. And I move into my 30s, and that coming out of being a woman who has power, no, you're not going to tell me what my role is, that's for me. And I'm going to come out and be the truth of who I am, regardless of what I've been taught about it, because something within me says that we are all whole, perfect, and complete. To where I knew that by doing that I was excommunicated. I've told that before. I was excommunicated from the Mormon Church. Mostly because I said, by the way, this isn't true about me. The rest of the stuff was inconsequential. To where you start to go down the line and hopefully in your life, and by the way, it doesn't matter when you do it. It doesn't matter whether you do it at 30 or 80. And I honestly believe it doesn't matter whether you do it in this life or afterwards. Because I don't believe that if I don't get it here, my beautiful brothers, that was it. Oh no. Oh no. They continue to give me the gift of reminding me who I am and what I came here to be and do. The thing about it is, when you're in the middle of that, again, the asteroid, it hides the truth of who we are. And how can we step out of it? I kind of think there's really one answer, and that answer is love. Love of self and love of others. And until I can love myself, I really cannot love others. I really can't. Because I will look to others and I will look to the outside for those answers that are not out there. Of course, we know it's not in the right car. It's not in the right center. There's no such thing. It's not in the right partner. It's not in the right clothes. It's where I find the answers to who I am within myself. Ernest Holmes says, we must consciously know that we can use creative power. And the more complete such acceptance on our part, the more completely will she be able to use this power for definite purpose. Ernest wasn't the only one that said something like that either, let's be clear. Science of mind does not own this. This is bigger than us. This belief, this call, it's bigger than a movement. It's bigger than a community, but it takes community. That's what's interesting. The journey along the way to tap into who I was not one that I did alone. It never is. And as long as we do it alone, which Annie calls the lone wolf, remember that one last night? The lone wolf is the most dangerous, is the most vulnerable in the wilderness. It is a pack of wolves that is the most powerful. But a lone wolf is left to their own devices. And when you're left to your own devices, I don't know about you, but when I'm left to my own devices, I can work my way into a whole lot of trouble. And it takes other folks to remind me that I don't have to work so hard to be me. I really just need to take a breath and remember. Other folks that mirror back to me my own story, because my story is your story. It may have the facts a little bit different or the circumstances a little different, but no, we all have similar stories. How can I step up out of it, out of this asteroid field? Love is the answer, love of self and others. How I do that is, and I'm going to give you 3 things that truly made the difference in my life when I look back at my life. One is, I never lost hope. I think hope is one of the most powerful things you can feel. Because hope would be that an excited anticipation. That's what's underneath. Hope is that we'll always be okay. I never lost hope. Not enough, though. Hope is not enough. I asked for help. For those of you that want to do it all on your own, good luck. Because the struggle you're having will continue. When I ask for help, it's as if, again, it's the right book, it's the right person, it's the right event, it's the right situation. It's a host of things that show up. And all I have to do, and believe me, sometimes the only prayer I have is help me, which usually means to get out of my way and let somebody or something step in and help me. The last thing, which I actually think is the hardest thing, for those of you asking for help, if that's the hardest thing, wait for this one. You might want to put your seatbelts on. We have to get vulnerable. Yeah, we have to get vulnerable because it's the vulnerability that we have that opens us up to possibility. As a community, being in a space, which I spoke about this some months ago, about being in a liminal space in a gap. We want to move through the gap and we want to get to the destination, right? Yes, I don't like it here. This is the most important place you could be. Do not miss out on a good crisis. Don't waste one. They're amazing. You're laughing. It's the crisis that breaks the pattern. It breaks the habit. It's sometimes the only thing that will. That's how we're designed. Ernest Holmes always talked about, we don't have to struggle. But I really think that struggle's part of it, but we need to transmute that struggle, which is don't live in the struggle. Look at the struggle for the gift. Take the gift so that you can move into a new place, so that you can be better in tune for the next one. There will be another. I mean, my gosh, could we have a global crisis? And somehow that we haven't played into this collectively? How can I be right now that makes the best difference for myself and others? So we long to feel alive, to feel awake, to feel energized and uplifted. Step out of the comfort zone. Take the crisis you're in. If you're not in, help someone else. And don't be afraid to help someone else. Sometimes we think, if I help them, how far is that going to take me? It will take you to you. Step into your authentic spirituality. Dare to tell the spiritual truth of your life. There's the vulnerability. To tell the truth of your story. Take the story of your life, whatever it might be, whatever you're ashamed of mostly, take it, tell it, put it on the altar, give it to God, Give it to spirit, give it to vine, whatever you call that. Annie Lamont, grace over drama. Yes, that's what God is, grace over drama. Take that story and let it go. But the only way to let it go is you got to be honest about it. You got to be honest about it. You have to be honest about what happened for you. You also have to be honest in your part. It's time to not just think or live outside the box, because I actually don't think living outside the box is the answer. As long as the box is there, it's a box. We need to rescope the space we're in. We need to take the box apart. We need to recycle the pieces of the box. And we need to repurpose our lives in the new space. As long as we think that we came here to sort of live the idea of what success is, or that somehow I'm a failure because I don't have something in my life that I think means what I should have. As long as we think that is the whole purpose, and not that we came here to know that we are love, that we are worthy of absolutely everything we desire. I need to check my desires, though, to make sure that those desires aren't just things that I think are going to change the way I feel. To step into being authentic and vulnerable. To magnify our hope. To ask for help. And to come from my heart, which is to be vulnerable in life. Those are not easy things. They're simple things to talk to. But guaranteed, the reward on the other side. What's the reward on the other side? Maybe. It's me. That's the reward. It's me and all the things you mentioned. Let us pray. As we come together in this space that has already been blessed and sanctified, this sacred place, not because it's church, but because we are here. For this holy ground we stand on was designed as part of who we are, that it is that one power and one presence that holds it all together. It is not I that holds it together, as much as somewhere in me thinks I'm controlling it all. I'm not. It is this universal presence, always operating, always conspiring for the upward evolution, the highest and best of all creation. I know that I'm one with it, and I know that everyone in this room is. I just declare right here and right now, one, that all is well. Even if it has the appearance of otherwise, all is unfolding. For whatever is happening in my life and the life of anyone that I come in contact with, that first I am love. That I hold that love for myself so that I can be that love for others. Because if it only stops with me, it goes nowhere. And therefore the world cannot be that peaceful place. So I step into that, and I step a little further outside of that box, and I dismantle that box, and I repurpose that box, and I recycle all that I've learned. So that no longer is the box necessary. For each one in this room is bigger than any box. I accept that. Knowing that God's got this, that I'm not alone on this journey. Therefore, I let go of that idea, that belief. That I'm part of a community, as everyone in this room is. That everyone in this room is part of the journey that I said yes to by divine appointment. So I accept that for all, and I call it good and very good. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.